Yeah, that's because whatever that's in Ableton's preset library, or if you use Logic's preset library, FL Studio's preset library, is whatever was put in there by the creators of the software, and is whatever they thought people would use. But then they can't read your mind, and they don't know you, so they don't know your specific musical inclinations and leanings. So you can't possibly get like every single sound in your head already nicely represented in your sound library. So learning synthesis is a very good skill because it makes you more independent as an electronic musician. You are less dependent on the fact that someone else has already made a preset that aligns with what you want to do in your head. And then you can just make something from scratch. Either that, or you can take a pre-existing preset in Ableton's library, but then you can modify it, okay? Because even to modify the sound, you need to know which parameters to modify. That's why I am teaching you all this synthesis, so to kind of give you all a bit more flexibility, so you don't kind of walk into a wall, or like you find yourself just faced with a brick wall just because you can't find a sound that's exactly like the sound in your head. So with these skills, with synthesis skills, you can stretch and pull and morph the preset sounds to your liking, right? So I'm just basically teaching you how to customize sounds, either from scratch or to modify presets. So synthesis itself is a very, very deep, complicated field. There's only one person in this room who has experienced the design your own module thing that I did. Something that show you all a form of synthesis, because there's many different types of synthesis. I'm going to show you all a form of synthesis that helps you all to get very complex sounds or very interesting and unique sounds very quickly. Okay, so that type of synthesis is called wavetable synthesis. Anyone can tell me what a wavetable is?
Wavetable is basically they chop out the sound and it's like they form like a table, like this. The second important, like can scroll through it.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, so to repeat what Joshua said, or to paraphrase, a wavetable is essentially a collection of waves organized in. Let me just change this to basic shapes. So, okay, basic shapes, right? I basically have 4 different waveforms here. And right now you see this 2D thing at the bottom here, or Vital. That means it's giving me a 2-dimensional view of the waveform, a single cycle of this waveform. But if I press 2D, I actually can see this in a 3D view, and I can see the waveforms basically morph. Or yeah, I mean in this case the basic shapes there's no morphing, but yeah. Let's see, I think waveform blend, yeah, I do that, then it will morph. So basically, wavetable synthesis allows you to have another dimension of tone shaping, because your starting waveform, so far previously with the kind of demos I showed you, we start with a static waveform and then we start filtering away stuff and putting modulation, all that. It starts with just a static waveform that sounds like that, something like that, that's very static. But with this 3-dimensional kind of with this wavetable technology, if you want, we basically can morph the waves as we play the sound. So before I even reach the filter or the LFO or the envelope, I can create movements in the sound already. Okay, so let me just show you. This is just basic shapes. But then you get a much more interesting timbre that moves. Okay, so the complexity in wavetable synthesis comes with the fact that you can introduce motion to the sounds. You can make the sounds evolve over time rather than start with a static waveform. Okay, so I'm going to just press. Okay, so on Vital, right, when you press 3D view, then you can basically see it like this. And then there's also this slider at the side here. Vital doesn't really label things very well, but this slider at the side basically determines the position of the wavetable. So I'm going to press a note and I'm going to hold it, and then I'm going to morph through the wave. I'm going to basically cycle through the entire wavetable, and you let me know how that sounds. So now we have this sine wave. We have another dimension of tone shaping, because now we can morph and introduce motion to the sound before we even touch anything. So Vital basically, if you all see the website, right, there's the free version and then there's all the paid tiers. But actually the free version is a fully featured version of Vital. you don't lose any features. The only difference is that the paid version gives you more wavetables. But
Make your own.
yeah, you can make your own, which I'll show you on
Just
a while. It's very easy.
audio file inside.
Yeah. Okay, but Vital, in its default state, if you click the top here, you can see all these basic waveforms here. And these are the ones that I have installed. So basically, you have other kinds, like this, I don't know, this triangle looking thing. Okay, gonna press and hold a note. So the progression through the wavetable is different and you get different sounds. And all these are wavetables that still work with very traditional analog style waveforms. If you see, it's still a very basic triangle wave, then kind of morphs into a sawtooth and square. All these it's still within the realm of your old analog synthesizers. And there are some analog synthesizers that actually can do this kind of wave morphing anyway. But the interesting thing about wavetables is that you can generate basically very complex waveforms that analog circuitry cannot and are only possible through computers. Okay, so let's just drink the juice. Okay, this is just what they called it. Okay, so here this it's a very kind of very nasal waveform that would be virtually impossible to, or very expensive to generate with real analog circuitry, but you have a computer, so who cares about that, right? You have this, and then we have more. So this is a very instant Skrillex bro step, the 2011 era bro step, and you can look at the waveforms. It's so much more complex than what we had. So, okay, this is the kind of core tenet of wavetable synthesis. You're just taking a series of waveforms and morphing between them, and in the morphing between the waveforms, you get a sound, you get motion in your sound. Okay? And just now, if you remember, how did we introduce motion to the pitch when I was showing you all the basics in this? How did I do that? You remember? I just did it like 5 minutes ago. What did I use in Vital to introduce motion to the sound? Which part here did I use? I used the LFO, right? Okay? Oh, envelope, yeah. Okay, so I want you all to start thinking of these modulators as these invisible hands as the things that will facilitate motion for you. Because, I mean, while so far I'm just clicking and dragging and making the sound cool, I'm using my mouse, which is not practical. I want to be able to just press it and have motion. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to use LFO1 here, and then I'm going to drag this to this slider here. So now, LFO1 is set to move this wavetable position for me. And I'm going to set the tempo of LFO1 to something slower. And then when I press and hold, all I'm doing is pressing and holding. Now I don't have to use my mouse to kind of jump across the wavetable. I can change the speed of this and make it a more slow burning. Okay, all these cool waveforms. I can also change the waveform to this. Because the motion is already there. The motion is already programmed there with the LFO. I don't have to kind of redo it. You get this cool kind of folded waveform like that. You can change like that.
Became a fifth synth.
Okay, so everyone just give it a shot with Vital. Who hasn't installed Vital yet? Yeah. All have, huh? Okay, so I continue with this.